Hey guys, and welcome back to another week's episode of ARYA Flash, where we bring you everything that's happened over the weekend and let you know exactly how you can prep yourself for the next week trading, what is the relevant news, and most importantly, how can we all profit from it together. So I'll let you know a few things that I'm going to be having my eye on while I'm trading this week, and we can hopefully all trade together. So guys, you all know the rules. Rule number one, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below so that you let me know what you think of the format, what do you want more of, and what do you want less of. So let us know. And without further ado, let's get into it. Firstly, we're going to look at the cryptocurrency market. So just a quick overview, $1.4 trillion market cap, Bitcoin currently trading at around $34,270, market cap of 643, still very, very strong dominance. Ethereum around about 2,150. I'll talk about that in a second. With Ethereum 2.0 coming out, I think that this could be a very, very strong time, or a strong opportunity, should we say, for something like Cardano, maybe even Binance Coin, to push ahead and start kind of taking back some of that market cap that Ethereum has had on for so long. So currently 251 billion. And obviously something like Cardano sitting at around $34 billion. Now, the first story, actually just before we get into that, Binance Coin up 10% this week and Dogecoin down 10% this week. So interesting, nothing really to be traded on unless we jump in and do some technical analysis, but I'll give you a couple coins that I'm looking at the moment. So Ethereum 2.0. It's not going to be what Vitalik has been saying that it will be. You know, we wanted the ETH 2.0 update to really just revolutionize everything and decrease the gas fees massively. But I don't really think that will be the case. And so this is also seconded by the Cointelegraph. So Vitalik said the problem is not the blockchain. The problem is the personnel working with Ethereum. So he's perhaps not too kind with his staff and the developers who are working on the blockchain. But there are just some major issues. ETH still only running 15 transactions per second. Yes, double that of Bitcoin, but it's still not really enough for something that is hopefully going to change the whole world of DeFi. Now, like I said to you before, guys, I definitely feel as though ETH has been designed to facilitate a blockchain, and it has worked very well in producing smart contracts. But as adoption has grown, ETH has always been one step behind. Now, I think really where we're going to see mass adoption is where we have something which was originally designed for mass adoption, and it's not always trying to play catch up on itself. The examples would be Solana. It would be something like ADA, for example. Cardano's just about to roll out the different, the rainbow colors of Alonzo. So we're currently going through the different colors, and we are seeing an awful lot. 71% of ADA is staked, which is the highest percentage of any other coin out there. So it really does show that there's a lot of people who have a lot of faith, not only governments, but also long-term investors. And I think that's going to be something that's crucial in making sure we have mass adoption. Now, like I said to you guys, a couple coins I was having a look at. We see Atom. This is, in my mind, there might be a small retracement. We're currently at a zone of quite strong resistance. Hit this zone once, hit it roughly around here. But again, definitely here, you see this line quite nicely across. And again, we've hit it. So maybe a small pullback, but I think that there could be potential for this momentum to continue up, because as you see, since the 26th of June, we have had a bit of a double bottom here. And again, very strong area of resistance at around $9, 8.9, whatever that is. But we've had higher lows each time. So if we can continue this, it could be quite interesting. And then only really do we have a resistance around this around $16, then maybe again at $17. But then after this, we're probably looking okay up to around 19. So that's going to be the areas that I'm looking at myself. Let me show you Luna. Luna is a very, very interesting project. built on the Binance blockchain. So I'd recommend that you guys have a quick look. So you can see, again, we're in quite a nice upward trend. We're closing above these previous levels of resistance. So you see resistance here, there is a small push backwards, but we're still closing above. And again, we're closing above. So these are all very, very good signs. I'm feeling pretty bullish on these, if I'm honest. And again, there's only really this area of resistance around about $10, unless we go very far back and we analyze around about here at 11 or 12. But really interesting projects. I recommend we have a look at that. Now, Joe Biden has signed a new order cracking down on big tech. What he has basically said is that there's too many mergers and they're too aggressive. There has to be new rules on collecting data and also barring unfair methods of competition on internet marketplaces. So essentially what he's saying is that if ever there's a competitor, you either buy them up or you make sure that they are so irrelevant that nobody uses them and therefore your market share is not affected. And obviously that could be seen as monopolistic, but there has been some very interesting cases. Let me just quickly show you this. We'll go through this article in a second. Here we are where the current quote we had from, let me find it. Yes. So the current definition is the power to profitably raise prices or exclude competition. Think back to Standard Oil, guys. So they would just reduce the prices so that competitors, and they'd operate at a loss, but they would operate at a loss for so long that the competitors who were much smaller just couldn't afford to do so. Now that's not really what these tech giants are doing, because the tech giants, they have a free service, and yes, they say there's worries about kind of collecting data and what's the actual value of this, but we have the option to use alternatives. We don't have to use Google, Facebook, Snapchat, all of these companies, and Amazon even. So there are alternatives. We opt into it, so it's quite hard for the government to make a case, but Joe Biden's given it a go anyway. And as we saw, there was a ruling after when he rejected a raft of antitrust cases against the social media giant, and that is Facebook. So interesting there from Joe Biden, cracking down on large tech. He's also cracking down on 14 Chinese companies over human rights violations in Xinjiang. Perhaps I've maybe messed that up, but let me know. So in the western province of China, I'll break this down just quite quickly for you. In the western province of China, there is an area called Xinjiang. Now this has a huge amount of natural resources. I believe they have around about 40% of the natural gas across the whole of China in this one fairly small region. Now there's quite a large Muslim community, and because these guys are not seen as traditional Chinese members, what China have done over the course of probably a couple decades is make sure that they can dilute down the Muslim population here by sending a lot of Chinese people kind of to the region and diluting their culture and everything like this, but also implementing a huge amount of technology to actually, and this is where you hear about these schemes where you have a social score and someone can say, hey, look, I'm not going to do business with you because you have a low social score. And that depends on your beliefs, your ethics, and things like this. So the US has actually sanctioned them. And so it's these companies that you saw here. So these, in one way or another, have either been directly involved in or have helped to facilitate this, this mass censoring. And I'll actually, maybe we have a picture. Or they're like a rehabilitation center, which look a lot like a prison to me. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. It looks a lot like a prison, but they essentially go there and they learn the values of being a proper Chinese citizen. And also this, again, that boosts their social score, and they learn to speak the Chinese language. So I think pretty good move there from the US. Now they have also decided to withdraw, I believe by August 31st, they will have all of their troops outside of Afghanistan, which is the longest running US war, an awful long time. But of course there are worries. Yes, so since 2001. Now, there have been an awful lot of worries that the Taliban they're just going to advance again, and then therefore the US are just leaving these guys. But they have said that it was up to the Afghani government to determine its own fate and actually, they've got a lot of new weapons, they've got a lot of new training, which will help them in their fight against the Taliban. Now, we do have, moving on to Pfizer, COVID-19 vaccine in Israel. There is this being proposed in the UK and also in the US as well. So guys, if you are over 50 years old, you may be eligible for a third shot to help you, help your immune system, shall we say. And it has been rolled out, like I said, in places like Israel. It's now being questioned in the US. Should it happen? It will obviously boost the demand of the vaccines, which again will then therefore boost the viability and also boost the profits of Pfizer themselves. Let's have a quick jump into the Reddit community. So a lot of people have been talking about, this is Virgin Galactic. It's pretty short, space without an A. But anyway, so someone around $200,000 in Virgin Galactic calls across 2 accounts. High hopes for today's opening. So guys, if you don't know, Virgin Galactic, they did actually send Richard Branson into the edge of space. There we go, 2014. There was a fatal crash during development flights during 2014. But now everything has gone okay. This is a very, very bullish sign for Virgin Galactic. It's now really proven that in fact these orders that have been taken, which come at around about £180,000, $250,000, these orders that have been taken can actually begin to generate some money for Virgin Galactic and therefore boost its profits. And there was a nice little schematic of how it worked. But I won't go into too many details here, guys. If you want to find out, have a quick look yourself. And again, another bit of, personally, I think, yes, it is bullish news. I think not quite yet. It's still early stages, but it does mean that, in fact, there's been, there is a lot of new press. And obviously, press is always very, very good. Earnings this week, quite a lot of earnings. So earnings reports coming out, JP Morgan, Bank of America, also Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, Charles Schwab, also PepsiCo. Now, personally, I'm most bullish about JP Morgan. Now, the reason is, especially with JP Morgan, now we all know that a couple of weeks ago, they were granted the ability to increase their stock buybacks and also increase the dividend payouts that they pay to their investors. Now, if they can come out with positive earnings plus an increased dividend, then I think there's going to be a lot of people investing and jumping back into the banking sector. And like we saw here, we're expecting the company to report 29 billion, which is a decrease over their previous quarter when they reported 33 billion. But what we do see is, with regards to the current fiscal year, analysts expect a profit per share of $13.21, while the previous year saw a profit of only $8.88. So overall, guys, I'm pretty bullish, especially when we're looking at expected earnings of $3.16 per share, as opposed to $1.85 per share in the same quarter of last year. So fairly bullish on this. Again, there's something similar for Goldman. You guys can have a quick look through this. And finally, Chewy. I'm very, very interested in Chewy. So before we get into it, we're at a few key levels of resistance. And guys, it's not super technical. I'm not going to draw these on, but we see around about this level here. It's like $80, $86, something like this. There is quite a lot of resistance. Again, hit it, again, hit it, again, hit it. We're now coming close. So we have to ask, has there been any major fundamental changes? Well, during the pandemic, obviously everybody was ordering online. And this is, in case you don't know, maybe I should give you some context. So it supplies pet medication, food and treats. So basically, if you have an animal and you don't want to go to the pet store, you go to Chewy. So a very, very good company. They will be also releasing out their earnings report this week. Personally, I'm pretty bullish, and I think that if we can see a close above the $85 mark, then I will be very much a buyer quite aggressively on this stock. That is everything. I'll quickly finish up and show you guys the treasury yields. So I don't know how much you guys do or don't know about the treasury yields. It's can be quite boring. But again, one thing that I've always said is we have to be aware of where smart money goes. As investors, we should always be following the smart money. You know, just saying that, hey, I'm going to put 200,000 in Virgin Galactic calls across 2 accounts. High hopes, they don't make you money. What makes you money is following the smart money. So where is the money going? So right now we'll have a quick look at bonds. Just so you guys know, the bond yield and the bond price are typically proportional to one another. So the way it works is investing in, let's say, a government bond, where the US government, I believe it's only been twice that they've defaulted on their debt. Basically, it's very, very safe and they're always going to pay you back. Because this is how debt is created. So you essentially say, hey, look, I know you're going to pay me back, so I'm going to buy your government bond off you, Mr. Joe Biden. Probably the director of the Fed, maybe Powell instead. But anyway, so it's a fairly safe investment because you know they're going to pay it back. So what happens is when more people are worried about inflation, they're worried about the economy, they put more of their money into US Treasury bonds. Now, as the more money goes in, then the yield goes down because the price goes up. So supply and demand, let's see, it's not exactly this, but let's just say supply and demand, the price of one bond goes up, but then the yield of this bond goes down. Now, there's also a coupon that you see here. We've got 1.6. That is actually so a coupon is basically just the annual interest that's paid. Now, this is for a typical treasury bond. So like I said, if the overall market sentiment is, hey, let's get ourselves into treasury bonds, then the reason is because people are worried about the state of the economy, because they think there's going to be a market crash. Obviously, instead of putting your money into Tesla stock and seeing it drop by 600% like it did last year, I mean, I know it can't, but if you're worried about it dropping by a huge amount, what you will do is you just look for somewhere safe to park your money, and that typically goes into a bond. So guys, that was everything for the news flash of this week. Let me know exactly what it is you want me to emphasize on a little bit more. I know bonds are typically quite boring. Personally, I don't trade them, I don't invest in them, but they are a really good indicator of the health of the market, because like I said, there always has to be that link between how are we going to make money as investors and traders. It's going to be by following the trends. So we find where the trend is, we find where the money's going, and we just follow that money trail right the way back, and then we can understand, is the sentiment risk on, is it risk off? And if it is risk on, then we have to be a little bit more careful. Maybe even we look for short opportunities, but you have to begin to think, how does the market work? So what I'm going to be doing is all throughout the week, I'll be sharing some more of my analysis and what's going on in the market into the ARYA app. So if you haven't already, make sure you download that, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.